Gangsters in general are not the kind of people you want to land on the bad side of, and the genre is as old as celluloid itself, with some incredible films demonstrating just how brutal their world is. Look away from The Godfather if you're a fan of horses, or James Caan for that matter. Behold the various and frequently shocking headshots in The Departed, Casino's torture by Vice, or even the brutal double death by baseball bat in that same movie. It's a wonder why we find these characters so fascinating. That's just the thing. We love them.
Holy shit, what have you been doing out here?
Over the last few years, the genre has seen some intriguing installments, but among the many movies featuring gangsters that have come out recently, there aren't that many that can truly be hailed as classics.
Fuck yourself.
I'm tired from fucking your wife.
How's your mother?
Good, she's tired from fucking my father.
The Irishman was an interesting, if slightly flawed, return to the genre from Martin Scorsese, while action films and franchises such as John Wick and Nobody seem to be taking the crime genre into a more high-octane direction. That isn't a bad thing, but this face-off is taking a close look at two titans of the genre, both from revered directors still working today, Scarface and Goodfellas. What could be more enticing than pitting the fiery Tony Montana against Tommy DeVito and company? Well, subscribing to our channel is a good start, so what are you waiting for?
Where are you going, man?
Leave it alone, okay? Better things to do, man.
Come on, go play with yourself.
However, which of these movies will be sitting down to enjoy a sumptuous dinner made by Scorsese's mom?
Delicious. Delicious.
Thank you.
And which will be?
Say hello to my little friend!
There's only one way to find out. Face Off.
Disclaimer. No actual science was used to determine the outcome of Face Off. Your results may vary. Please do not consume Face Off if you are allergic to conjecture, opinion, or general nonsense.
Round 1. Story. Just like that poor headless horse in The Godfather should have been, we're off to the races in this potentially explosive encounter, and first off the bat, we're essentially examining a rise to power in both movies. The acquisition of a pet tiger is a sign of the extravagance and ambition in one of the movies, while the other takes a more collaborative approach to show the main protagonist rapidly climb the rungs of the crime ladder. Scarface sees the rise of
Hey, this is my friend Tony Montana I've been telling you about.
A determined Cuban immigrant who agrees to kill a Cuban government official in return for a green card. He subsequently stakes a claim in the Miami drug trade and becomes the biggest cocaine dealer in the state, viciously killing anyone who gets in his way. This of course leads to his eventual downfall after pressure from the police, his own drug-fueled paranoia, wars with the Colombian drug cartels, all of which take their toll.
It looks like somebody's nightmare.
It's a classic ascension to power story that sees director Brian De Palma unleash an inspiring level of filmmaking craft and intoxicating imagery to tell his tale. Goodfellas, based upon the book Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi, centers around a young man, Henry Hill, who grows up in the mob and works very hard to advance himself through the ranks with the help of the mobsters he idolizes. While he enjoys his life of money and luxury, he is ultimately oblivious to the horror that he ends up causing. A drug addiction and a few mistakes eventually unravel his climb to the top.
Now take me to jail.
And much like De Palma does with Scarface, director Martin Scorsese delivers a movie rich in drama, subtext, humor, and violence with great panache. Both movies are rightfully cemented as classic gangster stories, and with that in mind, there could only be one outcome for this opening round. Verdict, it's a draw.
Number 1. Don't underestimate the other guy's greed.
Round 2, cast. Now this is where we really get to dive in headfirst to figure out which of the two powerhouse directors were able to assemble the best cast to tell their tale. Scorsese has always worked with amazing actors to lead his movies, and Goodfellas is no exception, with the tragically late but still great Ray Liotta taking on the role of green around the gills mobster wannabe Henry Hill. Liotta is excellent in this film and it remains one of his most celebrated parts. However, it isn't quite as iconic as the much mimicked performance by Al Pacino's Tony Montana. His approach is almost cartoonish, but you can't imagine anybody other than Pacino playing the role now with his wild mannerisms and sporadic outbursts of violence.
Where you going? Come here! Going. Help! Help me! I was kidding! I was only kidding!
Of course, we'd be remiss not to mention the superb supporting cast in either movie. Scarface may ultimately be a one-man show, but Pacino is ably supported by the likes of Don Eladio himself, Stephen Bauer as Manny Ribera,
Coño!
Michelle Pfeiffer as Elvira Hancock,
Hey, Jose. Who, why, when, and how I fuck is none of your business.
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio as Gina Montana, Robert Loggia as Frank Lopez, F. Murray Abraham as Omar, Frank's right-hand man, and the late Paul Shinar as Alessandro Sosa. Goodfellas also features a stellar supporting cast, which is no surprise seeing as filmmaking maestro Martin Scorsese is calling the shots.
Hey, Henry, here's an arm.
Very funny, guys.
Here's a leg.
It's a wing.
In addition to Ray Liotta, we also get heavyweight hitters such as Robert De Niro as James Jimmy the Gent Conway, Joe Pesci as Tommy DeVito, Lorraine Bracco as Karen Hill, Paul Sorvino as Paulie Cicero, Frank Vincent as the ill-fated Billy Batts, and Michael Imperioli as the also ill-fated Spider.
Now you're gonna dig the fucking thing up. You're gonna dig the hole. You're gonna do it. I got no fucking lime. You're gonna do
Fuck
it.
cares? I'll dig the fucking hole. I don't give a fuck.
Although the film centers around Liotta's Henry Hill, it really is an ensemble piece, and De Niro and Pesci in particular steal the show for most of the film's duration. Just check out that infamous scene where Pesci's Tommy takes offense at Henry, calling him a funny guy, to see how unhinged and intimidating the character really is.
Well, I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown. I amuse you. I make you laugh. I'm here to fucking amuse you. What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
Not just, you know how you tell a story. What?
No, I don't know. You said it. How do I know? You said I'm funny. How the fuck am I funny? What the fuck is so funny about me? Tell me.
Both movies feature a top-notch cast, and Scarface in particular depicts a leading man both cartoonish
Manny, look at this pelican fly. Come on, pelican.
and frightening in equal measure. But this round goes to the movie with the deeper bench of actors overall. Verdict, Goodfellas.
You really are a funny guy.
Round 3, memorable quotes.
I never fucked anybody over in my life. Didn't have it coming. You got that?
The gangster genre has historically featured many quotable moments, whether it's Jack Nicholson in The Departed,
I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me.
Marlon Brando in The Godfather,
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
or De Niro in Casino.
Listen to me very carefully. There are 3 ways of doing things around here. The right way, the wrong way, and the way that I do it. You understand?
I do understand that. I'll get right on it.
However, the most quotable lines come from either the Godfather franchise or the two movies battling it out in this epic face-off.
You got it. Okay?
Goodfellas protagonist Henry Hill has some of Liotta's most memorable lines of his career.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
But it's Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci who take the cannoli on this one. One of De Niro's most important quotes comes when he offers young Henry some advice about life as a gangster.
Never rat on your friends, and always keep your mouth shut.
A line that has ironic consequences as Henry ultimately rats out Jimmy later in the movie. The real scene stealers belong to Pesci's Tommy, with the short-tempered, to say the least, mobster snapping like a viper whenever he feels slighted or disrespected.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
Motherfucking you fucking piece of shit.
Yeah. Come on.
The aforementioned funny guy scene, or using his poor mom's cutlery to dispose of someone.
Anyway, you know what reminds me? I need this knife. I'm gonna take this. It's okay?
Okay, yeah.
I just need it for a
Bring
little
it
while.
back, though, you know.
Brian De Palma certainly doesn't hold back on the endlessly quotable moments in his gangster classic Scarface either.
Are you serious? Serious.
With who else but Al Pacino's scattershot dialect getting the most moments to shine in the movie. In one pivotal scene, Tony responds to being interrogated on his true allegiances by another drug lord by responding to a challenge in a typically bullish way.
All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. Do you understand?
Even when he's close to meeting his demise towards the end of the movie, Montana is boasting about his greatness in a moment that shows either he's incredibly brave or, by this point, just doesn't care anymore.
What you think you fucking with, man? I don't even tell. You fuck with me, you fucking with your back.
There are many other instances of quotable greatness too. Michelle Pfeiffer's Elvira's advice.
Don't get high on your own supply.
That's right. Lesson number 2. Don't get high in your own supply.
But of course, the best and most repeated line has to be when Tony realizes he won't survive the climatic shootout, grabs a grenade launcher-equipped M16A1, and utters this iconic line.
Okay. Do you want to play rough? Okay. No. Say hello to my little friend.
Sure, Goodfellas is endlessly quotable, and some of the characters get to deliver gloriously memorable dialogue.
I like this one. The dog, one dog goes one way and the other dog goes the other way.
One is going east and the other one is going west, so what?
And this guy's saying, what do you want from me?
However, for the sheer bravado on display and the carnage that erupts around its main protagonist, this round goes to the De Palma crime classic. Verdict, Scarface.
You want a job, Ernie? Sure, Tony. Okay, then you call me tomorrow.
Hey, man, you got a job, huh?
Round 4, violence. Now, ladies and gents, this contest is turning to what we all love and come to see these movies for, the brutal carnage and death scenes, right? Well, we may all be slightly sick in the horse's head, sorry about that one. But the claret that's spilled in gangster movies is just as memorable as the endlessly quotable dialogue. Goodfellas doesn't feature too many deaths, but when the violence erupts, it does so spectacularly. Perhaps the most indelible death is Billy Batts, who meets his demise after taunting Tommy about his past as a shoe shiner.
Hey, Tommy, if I was gonna break your balls, I'd tell you to go home and get your shine box.
In response, Tommy pistol whips him in Henry's nightclub and beats him to what he and Jimmy assume to be his death. However, on the way to dispose of the body, they discover he is still clinging to life before finishing the job and burying him in upstate New York. Another cruel and unfortunate death is that of Spider, a young bartender who Tommy shoots after an argument between the pair and later on in the movie kills him after taunting him about his injury. We also get characters stabbed in the back of the head, a frozen body in a meat truck, and ultimately the whacking of Tommy due to his involvement in the unsanctioned murder of Billy Batts. The violence is often short, sharp, brutal, and not always justified.
I gotta admit the truth, it turned me on.
While Scarface offers up dialogue that is not only iconic, but forever etched in the minds of moviegoers the world over, how does it fare when it comes to spilling the blood? It may not be quite as visceral as Goodfellas is.
You know what I'm talking about, you fucking cockroach.
But the body count is much higher in this one, and the best example of that is the frenetic shootout that closes the movie. Armed with an M16 machine gun, a grenade launcher, and of course that classic line, Montana runs amok and guns down at least 30 henchmen in an insane killing spree, fueled by his spiraling cocaine use. Montana is eventually overpowered, managing to take a ridiculous amount of bullets before being killed from behind, falling over the balcony and crashing into the fountain below. There's a scene in the first act involving a chainsaw, but the gruesome events are not shown in full, with Tony's face being seen splattered with blood instead. The movie is not overly graphic, yet still manages to get progressively darker and more violent as it goes on, with the final shootout a standout sequence worthy of any gangster flick. So despite a relatively low body count, this role ultimately goes to the movie that shows the true depiction of gangster life in all of its gory glory. Verdict, Goodfellas.
Yeah, you're always fucking late. You're late for your own fucking funeral.
Round 5, finale. With both of these definitive gangster movies being similar in their depiction of the rise to prominence of their main protagonists, this penultimate round focuses on the denouement of each to see if we can set up a battle to the death in the final round. Despite being a remake, 1983's Scarface remains one of American cinema's greatest crime dramas, and the ascension to power is firmly cemented in pop culture, so much so that its dialogue is still referenced.
Kids, arm your t-shirt guns. Keep Jimmy away from our float.
Say hello to my 50-50 blend.
Hello?
In America, first you get the sugar, then you get the power, then you get the women.
And its black and white poster hangs on just about every college dorm wall. The movie was controversial and criticized upon its release, and much of this was due to the glorification of violence, especially during that intense climax. Part of what makes Tony Montana's character so impactful is that his story ends in tragic failure. Though he reached the heights of fortune and infamy during his short time in America, he meets a very swift and savage ending during Scarface's conclusion. After an awkward and disturbing scene with his sister Gina, Tony takes on Sosa's small army and eventually goes out like a proper gangster. It's a fitting end to an epic story. Goodfellas, on the other hand, ends on a slightly less melodramatic note, but nonetheless just as powerful.
You also know a man by the name of Paul Cicero?
Yes.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point him out for the members of the jury? Your Honor, let the record reflect that Mr. Hill has identified the defendant, Paul Cicero.
Henry Hill's story doesn't just wind down to an end. It crash lands in suburban hell for him as we see him in an ugly blue bathrobe, smirking at the camera as he contemplates his life in what might as well be prison for him.
Get to live the rest of my life like a schnook.
The final shot of the movie has also sparked much debate, with the previously dead Tommy, who was very clearly shot dead, appearing once more, firing a gun straight towards the camera. Martin Scorsese has since confirmed this shot was an homage to the 1903 silent movie The Great Train Robbery, in which a bunch of outlaws pull off a train robbery, with one of the outlaws firing directly at the camera. Scorsese explains this reference as,
basically, in the Great Train Robbery, they commit this great robbery, and then at the end the police get them all, and somebody in the last shot fires a gun right into the camera. That's why I have Joe Pesci firing the gun at the end into the camera of Goodfellas, in the sense that basically in Goodfellas, It's a bunch of outlaws who do this incredible robbery, and then they all kill each other, and the police get them at the end. It's exactly the same story.
So there we have it. 2 classic endings to 2 bona fide classic movies, but this round has to go to the one that truly goes out with a bang. Verdict: Scarface.
Fuck. I knew it. I can believe it. I can't fucking.
Round 6, box office and awards. It's all come down to this final round, so let's determine once and for all who's going to be sleeping with the fishes and who will be going out in a blaze of glory by looking at their respective box office haul and accolades. Goodfellas managed a domestic gross of almost $47 million, an IMDb rating of 8.7, a Metacritic score of 90 with users rating it an 8.7, while on Rotten Tomatoes it has a 96% fresh rating and an audience score of 97%. It also managed to secure quite a few awards, including 5 Golden Globe nominations, 5 Oscar nominations, and 1 Oscar win for Joe Pesci for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. Not too shabby, Goodfellas.
Oh, it's my privilege, thank you.
Scarface, on the other hand, has a domestic gross of almost $45 million, an IMDb rating of 8.3, a Metacritic score of 65 with users scoring at an 8.7, and Rotten Tomatoes, it's 81% fresh with an audience score of 93%. In terms of awards, it has no major accolades, but it did receive 3 Golden Globe nominations for Best Actor, Al Pacino, Best Supporting Actor, Stephen Bauer, and also Best Original Score by Giorgio Moroder. Both movies have truly been through the ringer in this epic blood-stained face-off, and on the basis of the final round, the winner just inched ahead of its rival due to slightly better box office returns and accolades overall. Therefore, Tony Montana sadly won't be rising from the dead to return to his cocaine-fueled throne.
So say good night to the bad guy. Go on. The last time you're gonna see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you.
As this contest ultimately goes to winner, Goodfellas.
What do you think? Look at my shoes, aren't they great? My God. You look like a gangster.
So there we have it, a battle between 2 crime films for the ages, with Goodfellas eking out the win by the tightest squeeze of a vice.
Fuck me, you motherfucker! Fuck my mother! That's what you fucking tell me! Motherfucker, you!
Sure, that scene's from Casino, but hey, it's a great excuse to mention that underrated film again. But don't let us have the final word. Tell us in the comments which epic gangster flick is your pick, De Palma's Scarface or Scorsese's Goodfellas. And as always, thanks for watching.
And now it's all over.